Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney, hoping to get a few people that are going to be interested in this video. I think we've got a great one to show. It's our chief science advisor for the government, who is a liberal bureaucrat. Wait until you see her. She doesn't know the answers to any questions. And then they start asking you about science and UFOs and the vax, the stabs, the COVID, everything. This lady bureaucrat, she seems like a nice lady, but my oh my, it's a disaster. She has no answers whatsoever. Let's kick things off.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups.
Where's the audio?
Who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Do you think we should question science?
Oh, come on.
Science questions itself. You know, the way we improve our knowledge.
Sorry, we'll be right with you.
Questioning what we know, what we don't know, and designing ways to enhance this knowledge and you know, through data gathering and objective needs.
All right. So we don't remember how to do all of this. Sorry, Tigger, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Let me figure out how to get this going. Where is the audio on that? Oh my goodness. Sorry, gang. We will get back to the video. We'll get this all going, ready to run the right way. Isn't this embarrassing? Right? Sorry, gang. I'll be right with you. Just where is my audio? Does that get it? My, oh my. Oh no. I don't know if I can sit here and talk for any amount of time. Hey, Brent Parsons, good to see you, man. How you doing? Hope you had a good summer. Why is the audio not coming out? My, oh my. I hope everybody had a good summer. Okay, I think we got it here. Hopefully so. Let's give it another go.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Do you think we should question science?
Science questions itself. You know, the way we improve our knowledge is by questioning what we know, what we don't know, and designing ways to enhance this knowledge and you know, through data gathering and objective means.
Oh, yeah. Get started with our first round, 6 minutes each, starting with Corey Tucker from Conservatives.
Okay, get a load of the nonsense that this witness feeds back. This is the chief science officer, chief science advisor to the Trudeau government, to the Carney government. She came in 2017, and oh my goodness, so it's just a disaster. Wait until you see.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mamer, when your office was set up in 2017, it was reported that it had a budget of $2 million. What's your annual budget now?
Mr. Chair, I believe our budget was increased I'm not certain exactly what it is. I believe it's more around 3.5 million right now, but I can certainly provide the exact budget figure.
Please in writing. Much appreciated. And your salary, may I ask your salary?
I regret that I'm unable to give you my salary because I haven't looked at it recently. I can just say that I have a appropriate salary.
And on your salary, is there a bonus component to your compensation?
There is no bonus compensation for my salary, and I think that it was set up this way to ensure my independence.
So was there any increase in salary from last year to this year, though?
I believe I have received the cost of living increases that everyone else has received.
Do you know the percent or dollar amount?
I'm very sorry, I don't track these.
A financial report coming back to us, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So just a little bit alarming on what this budget, and we'll find out what the actual dollar amount is, but I wanted to dive into a little bit of the good work that you do, and we only had the annual report that's available is 2022. So that's 21 to 22 is available, 22 to 23 is not available, 23 to 24 is not available, and then our current year 24 to 25 is not available, I'm assuming. When do we expect these back annual reports to be filed?
Well, I think that the 2022-23 annual report is the latest report that was developed as I guess the calendar indicates, and it is done, and it's imminent. It's right now being translated.
Do you have like a target of how long it takes to produce these annual reports? Should we be expecting future ones to be 2 to 3 years behind, or?
Mr. Chair, I think that we're producing the annual reports to the best of our ability. We are a small team. We actually do not have an office that is dedicated to producing the annual reports as other organizations, departments, and agencies have in the government. We appreciate that the annual reports are very important. We have promised to work in a transparent manner. Most of our activities are actually put out on our website in an ongoing basis. I'm not sure that we have fallen that far behind in our annual reports, except during the pandemic, where I hope that it's understood that our most pressing issue was to really provide the best advice to government, produce reports on the pandemic. So I appreciate the interest in our annual reports, and promise that you will not be disappointed with the latest one.
And back to the organization, you said that it doesn't have the people or capacity to do these annual reports on time or in a shorter period of time. The full-time equivalents, or how many people actually work in your office? Has it increased since 2017?
Mr. Chair, when I arrived, there was space. There was no one in it. We had actually two individuals provided to us on an interim basis to support actually setting up the office, which we have done since, and done, I think, in a reasonable, appropriate manner to set up and provide
Could we get a report
provide
on
our mandate. Right now,
we're going to run out of time here. I'm sorry.
Right now,
could you, Chair?
I'm sorry, you're interrupting. Let him finish
This is my time, actually. I would request those answers in written form. I have a minute 10 left. In 2023, you attended the Trudeau Foundation final meeting for application nominees. In 2020, you attended the Trudeau Foundation Deputy Minister's Science Committee. Would you mind telling the committee more about your involvement in these organizations? As
a chief science advisor, like my homologues in the country and outside the country, including, for example, in Quebec, in the UK, in the US. We are expected to take part in the scientific life of the country. My involvement with the Trudeau Foundation has been to chair the scientific review committee, and I have no other involvement than ensuring that the applications are reviewed properly and that on a meritorious basis, and that a list of nominations is submitted to the foundation.
Thank you. Now for the second round, we have Ben Lobb for 5 minutes, please.
Okay, just saying, who doesn't know their salary and who wouldn't know the budget for their department? Like, when it's millions of dollars. It's absolute lunacy what they're trying to pull off here. And they're pulling it off. They won another election, goodness gracious.
Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here today. It's Dr. Niemeyer, correct? Yes, sorry. I wanted to make sure I addressed you correctly there. I'm not going to go on about the annual reports too much, but I just, like, right in the mandate, it says that you shall report an annual report to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Science every year. Has anybody ever asked you, hey, where's my reports for the last 3 years or 2 years? Does anybody contacted your office and asked you about that?
We keep, we keep the Prime Minister and the Minister of Science informed of all our work. And for example, you mentioned that the mandate requires that we report on the state of the science workforce, for example, and the state of the science infrastructure, which, like we have done. We just put out an elaborate report, actually, in December on the science workforce. So it's not like they're waiting for this one report to find out what we're doing or what recommendations are.
So would you consider that document that you presented to the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office at the end of the year is that a public document, or is that a kind of like a cabinet briefing note to the Prime Minister's office?
We have put together actually a substantive report on the science workforce. It's on our website, and okay. It was covered by the media as well. So it is very much a public report.
One other question I wanted to ask you about is the independence. And so as the Chief Science Advisor, do you get to pick what you want to investigate, or are you kind of, nudged and said, hey, you might want to consider this? I noticed you'd done an interview, and the Minister of Health had asked you to conduct the long COVID study. So I'm kind of wondering on the independent, and it's not critiquing you at all, I'm just saying, do you feel like you have the independence to study what you want, or are you advised by a cabinet minister what you should study?
Thank you for this question. I get asked this very, very often, so it's very pertinent and very important to understand actually the role, because we do both anyway. The government can ask us for advice, and sometimes it requires a report, sometimes it requires a small study or roundtable, but we are absolutely free to decide on issues of importance that we want to carry out. And the long COVID is a good example, because we had been tracking the issue of the long COVID for a while, and had discussions with the Minister of Health about it, who then felt that something substantive needed to happen that is beyond the Department of Health, because of course the Department of Health provides this. And there are a number of things that we do. We provide science notes.
Can I just interrupt you for one
yes.
second? When you're asked by the Health Department to do a study on long COVID, are you provided an additional budget, or is the expectation that you'll do that out of your own internal budget?
The expectation is that we do it from our own internal budget. We don't get any extra funding for any of the extra work.
Can I ask you one other question? when you're putting together your plan to study on the recommendation of the health minister on long COVID, and I know that you are a well-respected molecular cardiovascular researcher, does the idea ever come up, well, if we're going to look at long COVID, should we also look at maybe if there's any potential harms that the vaccine did to people? Because we see that in the news all the time. Do you have the independence to say, well, I'd study this, but I think if we're going to look at everything to do with COVID, we should look at all of this?
We absolutely have, the ability to do this, and this is exactly how it happens. Even when the government asks us for advice on the use of science in a particular case, then we assemble our own experts. We don't need any vetting from the government. We don't seek any vetting from the government. We do all the work independently. And we provide the report. And again, depending on how many of these we do, you can appreciate.
Can I ask one quick last question before you embark?
Okay.
Am I at? Okay.
Yeah, maybe you could share time within your group, but
I'm pretty sure that long COVID is just it's a stab injury, right? Like it's not long COVID. Experiment.
Really good questions and a good discussion. Mr. Tucker, for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. And just to pick up on where my colleague Ben Lobb was talking about some of your studying, you've identified the UFOs study that you're doing right now as something that you initiated on your own. What are the other studies that you're conducting right now?
We have a number of studies that we're conducting right now, and happy to provide a list if should I forget some. But we are doing a study on the use of science in emergency preparedness with recommendations based on what we've seen from the lessons learned from the pandemics.
Please have that list. But on that study on COVID that you're doing, are you questioning some of the things that we did as a country? That there's some things we did well and some things that we've given an opportunity to do again. Is that part of it?
Yes, in the sense that we're not concerned with operations. We're really concerned with the science and the science advice, and particularly for emergencies. And yes, there are things that we did well, and there are things that we can improve, especially in emergencies that will last for a long time. We need to have sustainable systems. So this is the kind of things that we're looking at.
And there was reports recently in the last month about the negative impact of our policies around schools and the belief of that locking down and limiting school use was negative to that generation. Will you be studying that?
This is really a very interesting question, because during the pandemic we actually did a study on COVID and children. And if I recall well, we had actually made a number of recommendations, including keeping schools open for children's, because we have to weigh the health and the educational outcome and the psychological and mental health and the societal things. And we had been wondering whether we should be revisiting some of the reports that we did, which were used, of course, on the knowledge that was, up to date at that time. So that's an interesting question you're asking me.
Can you forward that study to our committee afterwards with the other questions?
I beg your pardon?
Could you forward me that study that you did?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, with pleasure. It's on our website, absolutely.
And you spoke earlier about briefing different individuals. When was the last time you, in person, briefed the Minister of Science? Month.
Well, I'll have to check my calendar because I actually communicate with him very much by text and phone. So I will have to check when I met with him in person last time.
But please do, and it's good that you're texting ministers and different, hopefully, questions they have and answers that you might be providing. Not wanting the date, but when was we will make it as broad as possible. When was the last time you were in the same room as the Prime Minister? What month? It doesn't have to be the date, just like this year, last year, the year before.
I mean, this year we're only 2 months in, so it's not this year. That much I can say. I think that as much as I in person like now is fantastic. But of course, during the pandemic, these were not possible, and for a while after the pandemic, we continued to have virtual meetings and so on. So I'll be happy to provide the exact dates, but I just want to reassure the member of the committee that I am in touch with the Prime Minister's office, and they do respond to our inquiry. We provide them with recommendations, and they do acknowledge receiving them.
Did you provide any advice on the RiveCam scam?
Mr. Chair, I'm a science, advisor, and I appreciate that science, can be everywhere. But no, I don't provide advice on everything. And in this particular instance, I had no role.
So just to clarify, there's no questions if this was scientifically needed to your office, or if the research showed that something like this is needed. There's no communication from the government to you on anything to do with the RiveCam.
We're at time, so a brief answer.
There are no communications on this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, and now...
She has no answers, and she's so nervous. Like, how fidgety can you be, right? It gets a little more entertaining here. She starts talking a little bit, smoking mirrors, that kind of stuff. Let's continue.
We're now going to go into the second half of the meeting, and by the routine motions, we'll be following the same format as this last round with 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 2.5, 2.5, 5, 5. Starting off with Mr. Soroka with 5 minutes, please.
Wouldn't it be 6 minutes?
No, the routine motions.
Okay.
Well, the committee can decide to change that, but.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nimmer, for coming today. Were you or your office asked for advice on the policy on sensitive technology research and the related banned entities list?
We have been involved with the government in the general area of research security and the identification of sensitive technologies. Okay. But that's the extent of our really involvement. We haven't gone any further.
So then that was the nature of your advice. I should say, what was the nature of your advice then to them?
Our advice was around the identification of sensitive technologies, about engaging with the institutions, the post-secondary institution, about the importance of harmonizing our approach with our allies and similarly minded countries.
Okay. Do you feel that your advice was reflected in the policy and the banned entities list as well?
Like I said, we don't actually audit whether the government follows our advice or not, and there's a reason for that, because we don't want this to actually influence our advice. Like, we don't want to self-censor and only advise on what we think they will follow or not. So I just want to make this clear. And the other thing is, we're not involved in policy development other than providing advice on the areas, that are relative to science.
Sorry. So then, assuming this, then you haven't gone back and looked at the policy to decide whether they've taken your advice or not then?
Like I said, we don't audit how the government does. if I may, I just want to say that the research security is a very important and serious issue that goes actually, beyond lists and sensitive technologies. Of course, this is one component, but research security has to be something that happens every day for everything. So it's also the way that we conduct research, the way that we safeguard data in our labs, in our research institutions, the support that we provide to researchers actually for helping them to make sure that their data is not being manipulated and so on.
Yeah,
so
we
have provided advice on that aspect as well.
Okay. Considering Huawei's collaborations with Canadian universities and its ties to the Beijing governments, what's your view on its absence from the banned entities list?
Mr. President, I honestly think that this is a question that should be directed to others, including institutions and government.
That is a policy question, possibly more than.
Okay. I'm here to provide you with the work that we do.
Okay,
not
so
my
if you don't want to answer, I understand. Then, if you have time, your 2021 to 22 annual report states that the security should not serve as an excuse for turning inward, and the collaboration has often supported peace. Is that something you stand by, even as Canadian research collaboration has been used by foreign regimes to enhance their military capabilities?
I believe that science can be a force for good. I believe in science diplomacy. Doesn't mean that you have to be naive, enter into any collaboration at any price. I think that there are a number of examples I can give of fruitful collaborations between adversaries. I believe that as we speak, and despite the conflict in the Middle East, the Sesame Particle Accelerator, where you have people from the different groups, in the Middle East, is still working.
Interrupt then for a second? In writing, would you be able to provide the committee with the number of times members of the Government Cabinet asked your office for advice from the start of 22 up until now, and the description of what advice they were seeking? If you could provide that to us in writing form, please.
I believe we can do this, Mr. Chair, to the best of our knowledge, of course.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. McGuire, welcome to our committee. It's great to see you. You've got
Mr. Longfield, yes, and thank you, Dr. Niemer, for your presentation today as well. I had the opportunity of sitting in the Natural Resources Committee a little over a year ago, and I think it was the first time my office contacted you in this regard, and the topic of UAPs, unidentified aerial anomalous phenomena. And lots has been written and presented to the U.S. Congress on this topic. Scientists and those experts in that field have been have briefed Congress on this. I know that our Canadian minister has been briefed, some of our persons here as well. Would this be a topic that you would be interested in studying?
Mr. Chair, we have initiated a study on this, and we've made it actually public that we are carrying out this study. I must say that it has generated a lot of public interest.
The natural resources we're looking at why these particular objects, whatever they are, might hover around nuclear facilities. I would think that would be of special interest. I've also seen that in some of the French documents from France as well. Can you comment on any connection that you may have studied or seen in that area, and what sort of, and particularly in the study that you're doing, what sort of things are you studying?
So yeah, perhaps I can briefly summarize what our study is about. What we're doing is we're actually looking at the process by which public reporting of unidentified aerial phenomena actually happens in the country, and making recommendations, if need be, on what should be. If we need to improve on the system, and how best to align our efforts with our allies.
And have you asked any witnesses to come before your committee, or the? I don't. Did you meet with, or have you met with any of the people from the U.S. that have been public with the Congress on this?
Yes. So we have. So right now we're actually wrapping up, but we're continuing our contacts with and our exchanges, gathering information both in Canada and outside of Canada. We have spoken with experts. We have spoken, with self-identified experts as well who are working in this area.
Just a couple of quick questions.
Yes.
Has the departments and agencies been forthcoming with the information that you've requested from them? And when will the Sky Canada project be completed and publicly released?
So we have sent questionnaires and information to several departments that we think have been involved over the years or may be involved right now. And I would say at the working level, we have received information from some. The enthusiasm or the response have been uneven. But we haven't taken it a step further. So we'll make sure that we get the information that we need.
Yeah, and as we've seen in Congress, they've started to legislate that the information that they've got should be released. And so, will any of your recommendations be about the government transparency and the importance of releasing raw data and information to scientists and researchers here as well?
We're not at the stage of the recommendations yet, but I would just perhaps offer the following: that based on what we have gathered in terms of information so far, I think that there is room for improvement in terms of the gathering, reporting on the information, and also making it available to researchers and to the public. I think that this is the kind of things that if the information, of course, I can appreciate that some, maybe of national security concerns, but I believe that by and large that you can make the information public, and I think that's the best way to mitigate conspiracy theorists and disinformation.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. And would you? Do you believe it would be prudent then for parliamentarians to study your recommendations once they're released?
Well, you're of course free to study it, but I would certainly feel honored that you've taken one of my studies and given it further study.
Thank you. Starting with Mr. Tucker, 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. Do you think we should question science?
Science questions itself. The way we improve our knowledge is by questioning what we know, what we don't know, and designing ways to enhance this knowledge and
This lady doesn't know her salary. She doesn't know her department's budget. Let's let her be the chief science advisor to all of Canada. And now she's talking about why science is important, to learn things. Like your salary? Give me a break.
Data gathering and objective means.
Thank you, Dr. Namer. The questioning of science, and you talked about your study on UFOs right now, in that in the 1960s, people would say those are conspiratists. They're misinformation, that there is no other vehicles. Now we have the chief scientific officer of Canada saying she's studying them. What would you say back to anyone back in the 1960s that had concerns about UFOs?
I think we need to be careful, about revisiting the past, especially when it comes to science. And, we're just not going to start questioning Galileo, right? Actually, there is a Galileo project to scientifically examine the unidentified, aerial phenomena at Harvard.
Yes, Dr. Namer. There's people that question that we have a flat Earth, and they were stoned to death if they challenged that belief that we were the center of the universe. And now we don't. So thankfully, we do question what we believe to be true, and that's how we either prove what our current belief is, or our new belief would be on what the science has shown. Just to switch gears a little bit, I know only got a few minutes left. In your office, how many consultants do you usually typically hire in a year?
Actually, I think we don't hire consultants. If our expert panel members work pro bono, and that's the scientific culture. Yeah.
So no consultants. And of your staff, are they all back in the office now?
You mean physically?
Yes.
Well, we're following the recommendations of the Treasury Board and Government of Canada, and they're at least in the office 3 days a week.
So everyone in your office 3 days a week is where you're located. Switching gears just a little bit, back to what you study and the order of. So you said that there's a list that you're going to compile of the current studies. Has any of your work that you've done, have you, I guess, admitted to coming to a false conclusion? That after you review something that, you know what, your belief before was wrong, and now you have a different take on things? When everyone makes mistakes, when was the last time, I guess, you can say that you made a mistake?
I think this is a difficult question. Perhaps I can help clarify that when we do, for example, a report, we always mention that this is based on the available evidence as of that date, and then if the information changes, then we'll have take another look at it. And that's precisely what we're doing, actually, just this afternoon with the long COVID. So we've reconvened the expert committee 1 year after we put out the report, because it was based on data up until December of 2022. And now there has been developments, and we're reconvening, and we will sort of put out I don't know if it's going to be a correction, but an update for sure on where the science is, and if there are, further or newer recommendations that we would be providing based on that.
Have you considered studying anything to do with mental health and addictions in Canada, and how science could relate to new treatments or analyzing what we're doing now? Because seemingly a lot of Canadians are worried about addictions.
Yes.
What we are told is the science and the academia that what they're doing in British Columbia should be utilize a liberal drug policy across Canada. And I think there's many Canadians that are questioning the academic analysis that is the smart way to have a drug policy in Canada.
We recognize this is a very important topic. Mental health, substance abuse are very important. We actually, many years ago, considered doing a study on that, but at the time, the Health Canada and the Public Health Agency were doing a study, and we try not to duplicate studies. We take on things that we believe, require more than one department and so on. So I cannot tell you whether we will revisit this or not, but
Health Canada
okay,
shut you
thank
down.
you.
No,
Thank
they
you.
didn't
Now,
shut me down.
Dr. Q, and we have, according to our routine motions, we have space at the end for another conservative round and another liberal round for up to 5 minutes. Or so, who's going to take the conservative? Okay, Mr. McGuire. And looking at the clock, I'm going to need a few minutes myself, so let's make it 4 and 4.
Sure. Just a couple of quick things in regards to what I was speaking about in UAPs earlier, Dr. Nimmer. Do you know when the Sky Canada project will be completed and publicly released?
We have provided timelines for this. We're about to start drafting the report while continuing to do the gathering information, and we should be on track for releasing the report at the end of summer, early fall.
And have you released, or has your office reviewed Government of Canada historical documentation, including previous efforts such as the Project Magnet?
We have we have gathered a lot of historical information. I think our report is going to be quite fascinating on the historic front, so stay tuned.
Just wondering as well, NAV Canada, which is the receiver of many UAP reports, isn't very transparent. Has the Sky Canada project team sat down with them about how they can release more information for scientific investigations?
I'll have to ask my team if they have sat down specifically with NAVCAN. I cannot, answer this, but we have reached out to and sat down with many of the folks that collect the information right now.
Have any of the departments or agencies flatly rejected giving you information based on the national security or classification concerns?
I don't believe that they have rejected giving us information. Sometimes the information is more complete or more cryptic than would like it to be, which is why in some cases I will be engaging directly with the deputy ministers to make sure that we have the information that we need.
Okay, and has the Sky Canada project spoken with the American UAP office about how they scientifically investigate evidence such as video and radar, and if so, what have they learned?
We have spoken with several American counterparts, including at the Galileo project that I mentioned earlier, that's looking at this, scientifically with some of the NASA, the chiefs. I've spoken with the chief scientist at NASA and many other individuals who are part of the very active work on UAP in the U.S. I think we've been quite well connected, but we're also connected with the Europeans, like with the French agencies as well.
And have you had any discussions yourself with the government UAP office in the United States?
Not myself on that.
Or your department?
They have with different folks. I'm sorry, I don't remember, the names, but we can certainly, forward them. I can tell you that we're taking this seriously, and speaking with. We want this. Sorry. Oh. Go ahead. I just want to say that we're taking a very thorough approach to this, and making sure that our recommendations will be based on the best evidence and interactions that we've had.
Thanks, you.
My name is Jeffrey Nusatelli. I'm a former military police.
Okay, we'll get right back to this. Now, this is an investigation that they're having in the United States and Congress, and it's very revealing. I caught a couple of minutes of this last night, and I wanted to watch it, so we're going to watch it here. The pieces that I did see were super interesting. We're going to play this in full screen. It's wild. Let's check this out.
Officer with 16 years of active duty service in the U.S. Air Force. I'm here today because the American people have both the right and the responsibility to know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomenon. That truth remains hidden, classified and silenced by fear, retaliation, stigma, and confusion. Today, we are here to help break that silence. Between 2003 and 2005, 5 UAP incidents occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base, home to the National Missile Defense Project, a top national security priority. At the time, we were conducting launches deemed by the National Reconnaissance Office as the most important in 25 years. These were historic launches. These facilities were vital, and they were repeatedly visited by UAP. Each incident was witnessed by multiple personnel, documented, investigated, and reported up the chain of command. We sent information up, but we got no guidance down on how to handle these events. I personally witnessed one of these events and investigated others as they occurred. 6 other service members have provided me with the information that I will share with you today. The incursions began on October 14, 2003, when Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites. After several minutes, it drifted further east onto the base and vanished over the hills. This event, now known as the Vandenberg Red Square, was referenced by Representative Luna at the first hearing on this topic. Official Air Force records of this event are in possession by Aero and the FBI. Later that night, while I was on duty, security guards at a critical launch site reported a bright, fast-moving object over the ocean. I responded to the incident. Chaos ensued over the radio as the object approached rapidly. I heard my friends screaming, "It's coming right at us, it's coming right for us, and now it's right here." Moments later, I heard them say that it had shot off and was gone. When I arrived on scene, I talked to 5 shaken witnesses who described a massive triangular craft larger than a football field that hovered silently for about 45 seconds over their entry control point before shooting away at impossible speed. About a week later, another patrol reported a light over the ocean behaving erratically. Believing it might be an unannounced aircraft, they declared an emergency, and an armed response force responded. Before the forces could arrive, the object descended and either landed or hovered on our flight line, and then took off again at impossible speed. The witnesses to this event were threatened and intimidated afterward. They were told to keep quiet and think about what they were reporting. After that, things did get quiet until about 2005, when another patrol reported a massive triangular craft larger than a C-130 silently floating over the installation. He watched it for a few minutes. It traveled west and disappeared into the night. And then I had my own encounter, again in 2005. I was off duty, sitting in my backyard with 2 other police officers when we noticed what first appeared to be a satellite in orbit, but it wasn't acting like a satellite. The light was strange, it was pulsing, and then it started to maneuver. It dropped in elevation. At times it would vanish from view and reappear in a different location in the sky, and eventually it reappeared 200 feet over my house. It was a 30-foot diameter sphere of light. My friends and I watched it for a moment, and then it gently accelerated and traveled up and disappeared into the stars. These events profoundly changed my life and the lives of my friends. We stand at a pivotal moment in history. The question is no longer whether these events are real, but whether we have the courage to face them. True leadership requires vision, a willingness to confront the unknown with transparency and resolve. So I ask the Congress to help we, the people, enact this vision. There are 3 goals. Fund independent research and treat UAP study with the same seriousness as we would any other scientific field. 2, end secrecy and overclassification. Transparency is the foundation of truth. Without it, witnesses like us are dismissed. 3, protect the witnesses. Many stay silent out of fear for their careers, reputations, and the safety of their families. Protect them, and you will embolden others to join this cause. These phenomena challenge our deepest assumptions about reality, consciousness, and our place in the universe. Exploring them can unlock transformative breakthroughs in technology, biology, and human understanding. Let this be the moment when America chooses courage over fear, transparency over secrecy, and progress over stagnation. Let's show the world that our nation leads not only through strength, but through fearless pursuit of the truth. Thank you.
My name is Alexandra Wiggins. I'm an active duty U.S. Navy Operations Specialist, Senior Chief Petty Officer. Father of 3 and dedicated American testifying today in my personal capacity. The views I share are my own, and I do not represent the official positions of the Department of the Navy or any subordinate organization. On the evening of February 15th, 2023, at approximately 19:15 PST, in the Whiskey 291 warning area off the coast of Southern California, I was serving on board USS Jackson. During that period, I moved between the Interior Communications Center, ICC-1, and the bridge wing, correlating the sensor picture with visual observations, part of my routine responsibilities for surface and air picture management. What I observed and what our crew recorded was not consistent with conventional aircraft or drones as they appear on our system. A self-luminous tic-tac shaped object emerged from the ocean before linking up with 3 other similar objects. The 4 then disappeared simultaneously with a high synchronized near instantaneous acceleration. I observed no sonic boom and no conventional propulsion signatures, no exhaust plume, no control surface articulation on the Sapphire image system. Shortly after the synchronized departure, radar tracks dropped. These observations were multi-sensor and recorded inside of ICC-1 with time location overlay visible in our source frames that have been made public by journalists. From my experience operating in this region over many years and consistent with our public characterized encounters, unidentified objects reoccur in United States operation areas off Southern California. That fact alone does not tell us what they are, but it does argue the systematic stigma-free reporting and for the preservation of sensor data so analysts can evaluate safe and intelligence implications with rigor. I want to underscore 3 points for the task force and the committee. Aviation and maritime safety. When crews and watchstanders observe objects that maneuver or accelerate in ways that does not match known profiles and do so near our ships and aircraft, that is first and foremost a safety issue. Standardized checklists and training should ensure we capture the best possible sensor data in real time, including IR settings, slant range estimates, and bearing and range altitude snapshots, and immediate chain of custody for any recordings. Reporting without stigma, protection without retribution. Sailors need to know that reporting UAP encounters will not harm their careers. Congress can help by reinforcing witness protection and by directing the relevant office to maintain confidential, destigmatized channels for service members who step forward with data. Declassification and transparency where possible. The task force declassification mission is directly relevant here. Where operational security permits releasing metadata preserved sensor excerpts or at least technical summaries would improve public trust and accelerate outside scientific scrutiny. That includes, when feasible, the time geo-reference IR frames and radar parameters needed for independent analysis. To be clear, I am not here to make claims beyond my lane. I am here to provide a first-hand account of what I saw, what our systems recorded, and why it matters for safety, for intelligence, and public confidence. My request to you is practical. Help us capture, protect, fairly evaluate the evidence, and provide a safe pathway for those in uniform to report it. In closing, I want to thank the committee and the task force for holding this hearing and for placing this discussion in a forum where evidence can be examined carefully and openly. I appreciate your attention and stand ready to answer your questions. Thank you.
I'm George Knapp, Chief Investigative Reporter at KLES TV in Las Vegas. I began my pursuit of this weird mystery way back in 1987, and for 38 years, I've always approached this as a news story. It's not a matter of faith or belief. To me, it's a story, and it's an important one. I'm proud to be here alongside these witnesses today, men who have seen strange things and stepped forward to tell the world about it. Whistleblowers and witnesses who step up are routinely insulted, belittled, or worse. They risk their reputations, their careers, their clearances, their livelihoods, and sometimes much worse than that, even their freedom. I know that one of the goals of the task force here is to figure out ways to protect whistleblowers and witnesses, and it's a tall order because so many of the things that happen to witnesses like these are extra-legal. They're carried out by persons unknown, as Mr. Dave Grush, sitting up at the top of the room, knows all too well, including events in recent days that have happened to him. I want to share a couple of things that I've learned along the way on this long journey, and I submitted most of that in written form because I estimate that my statement here today would take about 4.5 hours. So I'm going to try to jump over and touch on the more important salient points. I submitted a detailed written statement for the record, and we'll go into a lot of that here. But the public has been told over and over since the late 40s, there's nothing to worry about here. These mysterious craft seen by millions of people in the skies, in the oceans, over the land are not real. They're not a threat. The witnesses are wrong. They're crackpots. Don't believe it. That changed for me. What got me hooked is the paper trail. Documents that were squeezed out of the U.S. government after the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, became the law of the land. And those documents paint a much different picture than what the public, the press, and Congress have been told over many years. The documents from military and intelligence personnel behind closed doors admit that, quote, these things are real. They're not fictitious. They can fly in formation. They're evasive, and they outperform any aircraft known to exist, including ours. The public, of course, as I said, has been told something much different. Back in 1989, I reported about a guy named Bob Lazar, who claimed that he worked at a facility dubbed S4 out in the Nevada desert, very near to Area 51. He said he was part of a reverse engineering program. He said there are alien craft that will be taken apart to figure out how they operated out there, and that was a pretty tall order. I had clearly taken a dive into the deep end of the pool there. But in the years since then, I've interviewed dozens of other people, and I've detailed what their testimony has been in the written statement. They include Senator Harry Reid, Senator Howard Cannon, also of Nevada, a guy named Al O'Donnell, who was the first general manager of EG&G in Nevada, which managed the Nevada test site, which blew up hundreds of nuclear weapons. There's a guy named Dr. James Lakatsky, who was a career scientist with the Defense Intelligence Agency, who was the guy who initiated a program called OSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, which is, as far as we know, the largest acknowledged UFO program ever funded by the U.S. government, which put together an amazing pile of information that members of this committee and the world, most of which have never seen. The DIA still hasn't released 95% of what was prepared by that program at a cost of millions and millions of dollars. The one name I do want to bring up in this session, though, is Robert Bigelow. So looking into the idea of crash retrievals and reverse engineering, while OSAP, that program, was active, the DIA's contractor, Robert Bigelow of Las Vegas, made a bold attempt to acquire physical proof of UFO crashes. It's been widely reported and suspected that Lockheed Martin is one of the contractors, the defense contractors, that has held this stuff, stored it away in secrecy, and tried to figure out how it works. I have confirmed on the record that Robert Bigelow and a trusted colleague from OSAP met with and negotiated with senior executives at Lockheed Martin and hammered out a deal wherein Bigelow's company, Bass, would receive a quantity of unusual material that had been stashed away and protected at a facility in California. That material was not made here. I want to move on now to the Russia files, because that was going to be sort of the central impetus of what I was going to talk to you about today. Back in the early 90s, I got into Russia, met with a number of their defense officials, Ministry of Defense and others, who confirmed for me that Russia had been doing the same thing that the United States had been doing, that is, secretly studying UFOs while publicly saying something completely different. The documents and interviews that I obtained and have now shared with this task force show that the USSR launched what is almost certainly the largest UFO-UAP investigation in the world. The first phase of that was an order was sent out to the entire USSR military empire that every unit, you see anything strange in the sky, a craft, an orb, something unusual, you had to gather all the evidence, collect testimony from the witnesses, look for physical evidence, and all of that information went into one program at the Ministry of Defense. Thousands and thousands of these reports came in. A lot of them were first routed to the KGB, but then back to another program that came after this collection effort called Thread 3. And Thread 3 was an analysis program. We have provided to the committee the documents of what they were trying to do, and essentially they were trying to build their own UFOs. They were using the information from their observations and studies to try to figure out the technology. The guy who was in charge of that program, Colonel Boris-Sokolov, told me that their goal was to basically develop technology that would be superior to anything we had, based on what they learned from UFOs.
Mr. Knapp, just in the name of time,
Sure.
To my understanding, did you have anything you wanted to submit for Congress to see in this committee?
I have submitted those documents.
Would you like to play any videos? Do you have a video that you would like to play?
I don't think it's for me to play.
No, that was for Alexander.
Yeah, Alexander's video.
Okay.
You could play it. He could narrate it.
Okay. We can, in the name of showing that video to everyone on task force, we'd like to play that video at this time.
Sure.
All the videos are always so poor. Like, the resolution is bad. Always frustrating that way, right?
You call it the VVSS team.
Yeah, like 22,000 feet.
That took off earlier.
If we can get rid of the audio real quick. Mr. Wiggins and Mr. Knapp, we'll get back to what that video was in a moment, but we just want to make sure that it was entered into the record, as well as all the documents. Those will be able to be publicly found for everyone in the country to view. If we could, Mr. Knapp, we'll continue on the line of questioning, but I'm going to move on to Mr. Borland's opening statement.
My name is Dylan Borland, a former 1N1 geospatial intelligence specialist for the United States Air Force in an active duty enlisted capacity from 2010 to 2013. I've also been employed with BAE Systems and Intrepid Solutions as a senior analyst, expert in analyzing video, radar, and advanced electro-optical imagery for official identification of aerial order of battle, as well as naval and ground order of battle. I'm a federal whistleblower, having testified to both the ICIG and ARROW with direct firsthand knowledge of and experience with craft and technologies that are not ours and are reportedly operating without congressional oversight. Because of my direct knowledge of the reality of certain legacy UAP programs, my professional career was deliberately obstructed, and I have endured sustained reprisals from government agencies for over a decade. From 2011 to 2013, I was stationed at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, conducting 24-hour operations via manned and unmanned aerial vehicles for Special Operations Forces in the global war on terror. During the summer of 2012, my team was on standby for weather, and I returned to my barracks on base, and at approximately 01:30, I saw an approximately 100-foot equilateral triangle take off from near the NASA hangar on the base. The craft interfered with my telephone, did not have any sound, and the material it was made of appeared fluid or dynamic. I was under this triangular craft for a few minutes, and then it rapidly ascended to commercial jet level in seconds, displaying zero kinetic disturbance, sound, or wind displacement. Some years after that experience, I was further exposed to classified information from the UAP legacy crash retrieval program through a sensitive position I held within a special access program. During this time, intelligence officers approached me in fear for their own careers, citing misconduct within these programs and similar retaliation that I was already enduring at this time. These issues include medical malpractice committed by Veterans Affairs staff, denial of work I performed while enlisted in the United States Air Force, forged and manipulated employment documents, workplace harassment, including colleagues being directed to not speak with me, manipulation of my security clearance by certain agencies, blocking, delaying, and ultimately removing my ability to be employed within the IC. The retaliation I face and the retaliation against individuals I know who worked in these programs is what convinced me in March 2023 to become a whistleblower. I came forward out of concern for people's lives and to ensure I did everything I could to let our elected representatives know the truth about what is really happening in the executive branch. At the end of March 2023, I agreed to meet with Arrow following the suggestion of other federal officials believing it was what our nation required of me. I had reservations with Arrow due to assessments they were reporting publicly at the time as a misrepresentation of the truth. Because of these concerns, I did not share sources and methods information in order to protect current and former federal personnel who had firsthand exposure to technologies of unknown origin. I did not want anyone to face further retaliation beyond what they had already endured. And unfortunately, a staff member ended up getting in some trouble because of that. After David Grush testified under oath in the summer of 2023 and provided historic disclosure, I was then asked to go to the ICIG and did so in August 2023. It was very clear early on during my intake interview, which was video recorded under oath, that the objective was to solely assess how much I know and not move forward with an investigation with new information I provided them. The aftermath of that IG complaint still troubles me to this day. Since my ICIG complaint, I've been prevented from resuming prior employment and can confirm I'm still blacklisted from certain agencies within the intelligence community. In addition, multiple agencies attempted phishing attacks to assess what I had divulged to the Inspector General, including being asked to disclose details of my ICIG complaint during a CI polygraph for a position unrelated to UFO UAP matters as recently as November 2024. As I sit before you today, I and many other whistleblowers have no job prospects, no foreseeable professional future, and a nation every single one of us came forward to defend. Numerous individuals have come forward in various ways to reveal the truth of the UAP reality as patriots and defenders of our nation. Yet many feel discarded, isolated, hopeless, separated from the country they serve. Efforts to rectify this situation for all whistleblowers have been difficult and troubling. And to my fellow whistleblowers and officials who know this information, I offer you my apology, something that I have never gotten, and I'm giving it to you. I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States, an oath that demands truth and transparency for our democratic republic to function. Each day, these truths remain hidden from our citizens. Humanity drifts further from the principles our nation was founded to uphold. Each day, victims of crimes committed by agencies and companies maintaining this secrecy are denied justice as another day our Constitution is shredded. In 2023, Patriots provided this committee and the executive branch with undeniable proof of the UAP reality, and I commend your continued commitment. The future of humanity is one which we either travel to the stars or regress to the Stone Age with this technology. My career has been to deliver critical information to decision makers. Your role as elected by your representatives is to act on it. The time to act is now. Thank you.
I'm a senior policy counsel at the Project on Government Oversight, a nonpartisan independent watchdog organization that investigates and exposes waste, corruption, abuse of power, and when the government fails to serve the public or silences those who report wrongdoing. Whistleblowers are the first line of defense to root out waste, fraud, abuse of power, and corruption in our government. Congress relies on whistleblowers and their legal rights. Some of the risks if leaders are held accountable.
Can you explain what you observed in terms of size, behavior, and why you're confident it was not conventional technology?
Great question, ma'am. So on the base, I lived in the barracks. There was a little smoke pit outside. I was there on the telephone and looking across to the flight line, and I see a white light pop up and stop about 100 feet in the air. I thought it was a weather balloon. I've seen tests from there before, weeknight, normal thing, not surprising. I actually finished my cigarette and I began walking up towards the flight line. There is a track, and because I was on 3 months of night work, I would walk the track at night when we were weather down. And as I began walking towards the light, towards the flight line and the track, the light then flies across the base, across the flight line, and as it flies to me, a triangle manifests around the light. I can't tell you if it's active camouflage. I can't tell you if it appeared around the light, but I can tell you that it was a white light and then it was a triangle. It stopped about 100 feet in front of me and approximately 100 feet above me. My telephone got extremely hot, completely froze, dead. I remember how thick it was. It was between 1 to 2 stories thick, equilateral triangle. I could never see the top of it, and the edges were 90 degrees. There were 4 lights in total. one light on each corner and a larger light in the center, 2 to 3 times the size of the corner lights. But what was really odd was the outside. The best way to describe it is like looking at a James Webb telescope picture where you have the colors and then the black background. So the craft itself was this black metallic flake paint, but on top of the craft was this gold, lava, plasma, some type of fluid going over and around the craft. I'm under this for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then the center light flashes 2 to 3 times, no sound, immediately shoots up to commercial jet level minimum, in my opinion, and I immediately feel static electricity all over my body, and then I smell the smell of after a thunderstorm or lightning storm, that really strong summer thunderstorm smell. Gets up to flight level. I'm trying to get my phone reset, and I can only see the center light at this point. If I didn't actually see it take off, I would have thought it was a star. And then it hovers up there, and it begins to slowly move due east out over the Atlantic Ocean. I finally got my phone reset. The entire thing was about, from the time I saw the light pop up near the hangar until it took off out over the ocean, was about 15 minutes.
And following up to that question, after you disclose this information to the intelligence community, Inspector General, you're subject to phishing attempts and job blacklisting. How widespread do you think this is across the intelligence community for those who raise concerns regarding UAP programs?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think prior to David Grush and people beginning this process of bringing people into awareness of the reality of these programs and certain things people have witnessed, probably extremely widespread. I think today there's still an issue, but because people are able to come before you and people are speaking out, I think it has been somewhat less. I would hope, though, that people would, because if this goes back into closed doors, this is going to get really ugly.
What type of behavior have you witnessed from former Aero Director Sean Kilpatrick as well as his staff in relate to this information you provided to them? Did they ever try to classify this information as non-human technology?
Good question. The problem with this is that I know what I experienced firsthand, and I know other things. I think the staff at Aero that I met with in March of 2023, I think they were good people doing the job they were told to do. I did not meet with Kirkpatrick. He was either not present or did not want to meet me that day. However, they did classify information about the reality of this subject, and it was very concerning because in my Aero MFR, they had actually referenced a former staff member that was the one who told me to go there, and they probably shouldn't have done that.
And real quick before my time is up, and we might go to second round of questioning just so you're all aware, how important, given everything that you've seen and experienced, is the UAP Disclosure Act of 2025 in restoring both public accountability and trust?
I think very important. I would hope, though, that the 7-year window could be shrunk, my opinion, but very important. The truth needs to be known.
Mr. Wiggins, I want to talk to you. I find your background and testimony compelling. When you first saw
this guy looks like an alien,
what you were looking at, what were your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were, I think everything that I was told and taught as a kid and as growing adult no longer was applicable. If I'm able to see something that I thought defies gravity in such a way, then what else could be possible? That was my first thought.
So did you think what you were looking at was a weapons program that you were unaware of, or did you think what you were looking at was obviously some extraterrestrial piece of technology?
Neither one of those crossed my mind. It was just.
How about now? What do you think it is now?
I'm not the expert. I think it. I want to be as skeptical as everyone else and just hope to know the information.
Anyone in the U.S. government tell you what you were looking at to try to dissuade you from what you thought it was?
No.
So no one was like, oh, there was some anomaly with the technology. No one from the government did that?
No one.
How do you think you were treated when you reported this information or have talked about, the Tic Tac video is is well out there. It's well reported. How were you treated?
I've had no pushback at all. I haven't had anyone reach out to me or try to, dissuade me in either direction, militarily speaking. So I was treated fair, and I appreciate the Navy itself with assisting me with coming here to being able to testify.
That's good. So what do you think the American people should take away from watching your video, right? Because when we watch it, obviously, right, we've never seen anything like that. It defies what we know to be technologically possible. What are we supposed to think? Someone's lying about something. Someone's hiding something, right? That's not normal what you looked at.
I think what the American people should think when seeing that video, along with others before me, is that there is something out there, and we should know as the people what it is.
Right, and so let's eliminate possibilities. So they didn't come to you and say there was a technological error with what you were looking at. So we put that aside, right? They didn't say it was broken. So we look at that and we see something. So it's either a weapons program being reverse engineered by our governments or other governments, or it's nobody's government, and it's not from here. Those are it. You agree with that assessment?
I agree. One or the other.
What do you and your friends think about it today? You all have talked about it. Yeah. I mean, so what do you think about your experience as a collective group? That'll be my last question, Madam Chairwoman.
I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 years. We don't know what we saw. What we saw changed our lives and the way we think about everything. It was incredibly profound. The object I saw, I don't even know if it was an object. It was a light. It was an orb. It didn't look like a craft, but it did look solid. And that's what we talk about. We noticed the object, and this was a pattern across all the encounters. Someone would see a light. They would pay attention to the light. And then the object responds. It performs for you. And then they come down and they investigate you. So it's almost like they're curious. So that's the thing we primarily talk about. Why did it come after we noticed it? Maybe it noticed us after we noticed it.
I only have 1 minute left, so Mr. Knapp, we are definitely going to watch every documentary. You guys have you and Jeremy have done a terrific job. I usually have more questions than I have answers. I think we all do, and you guys are doing a terrific job to bring information to the public. Do you think that any of this is a psyop by the U.S. government?
Entirely possible. I mean, our government and other governments have admitted that they've tried to use UFOs to cover secret projects. But I think they also do some reverse engineering of those claims. So years after people start seeing UFOs over Area 51, for example, they come up with the story, oh yeah, that was, we planted that story. So I read in a major newspaper just a couple of weeks ago, they planted this story. An Air Force colonel went out into the desert, went to a bar at Rachel, and gave them some fake UFO photos. And that's how the whole story about Area 51 started, which is preposterous.
Yeah, and I didn't even get to the crash retrieval program stuff yet, Ms. Chairwoman. There's just so much. Okay, thank you so much for your time today. I wish we had more time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I now recognize Mr. Burchett from Tennessee for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you, Ranking Member Crockett. I see a lot of friends out there, and I see a couple enemies, so I'll kind of remember that. But it's a pleasure being here. I want to remind people, too, this thing is an ongoing deal. We're not going to get this overnight. We've been fighting this battle, some of y'all, for 30 years and maybe longer. I hope we just keep focused on what we're trying to get to is total disclosure. We get a little wrapped up in a lot of things, but the government has something, and they need to turn it over to us. We pay their dadgum salary, you pay our salary, and you ought to get more out of us than you do. And that's what disgusts me about this whole thing. I think they're just trying to run the clock out on us, really. They'll poke us a little, and they'll make jokes to us and try to pull us off the target, but I think we know where we're at, and that's why they're firing at us, because we are over the target. My first question is, Mr. Knapp, I recently introduced the UAP Whistleblower Protection Act to help provide whistleblower protection to federal personnel for disclosing the use of federal taxpayer funds to investigate UFOs. I still don't want to say UAPs. How can Congress further increase whistleblower protections?
I think you got to unleash the dogs and go track down the money and where it goes, because a lot of this stuff has been moved out of government.
Sure.
As you know, Rep. Burchett, it's been given to private contractors who stashed it away. They've had it for so long that there's nobody left inside government, or very few, who know where it is.
And they do that to keep us from FOIA, correct?
Yeah, it's to keep it from FOIA. And I think that the contractors who've had this stuff for a very long time set their own standards about who is allowed to know what. And it's a very small group that ever cracks that. I think Representative Luna has been looking at the use of classifications to hide things. I'm not sure that even this committee getting security clearances that should allow you to see this stuff would allow you to follow where it really goes.
I worry about the people that are looking at it and don't even know what they're looking at. I mean, it's gone through so many, since Roswell, for instance. I mean, you think there's nobody even alive that was around any of that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think they've made much progress from the people that I've talked to. I don't think they've made much progress in learning that technology. Might have made some, but you wonder, the implication is tic-tac. Oh, yeah, that's ours. What flew over Washington, D.C. in '52, is that ours too? When are you going to break that out? You guys authorized tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars on weapons systems that can't do half of what we've seen UFOs do. So when do they break this out? If it's really a classified project, could change the world. I don't think they've made much progress, and I think they've been lying to us and to you and the rest of the world, and they're still doing it.
Yes, sir, I agree with you. How did you manage to obtain the classified Russian UAP documents, and how did you get them back in the United States?
Well, I met this Russian physicist who was in the United States lecturing.
And I want to clarify that. I can't even take a thing of honey home on my airplane when I fly back to Tennessee.
Yeah,
so
I did something pretty dumb.
And I'm bitter about it, but go ahead.
I did something kind of dumb. I met with these officials who, during that time period, glasnost, perestroika, the Russians were trying to open up to the world, and I saw it as a window of opportunity, and it was. And we were able to talk these folks into providing us information that otherwise we would never have seen. Some of that was classified. I found out that they only stamped the top pages of these documents that were classified, so I just removed them. I removed those pages, and I carried them out. And if they'd caught me, I'd be in a gulag still.
Yeah. We'd be saying, what happened to George Knapp? Oh, yeah. What happened to the Russians that came forward to you in 1993, and were there any repercussions for them?
Well, there were. The first thing that happened when I talked about this after getting back and going through the files and things and sifting through it, the Russian physicist who had helped us introduced all these people wrote back and said there was a huge eruption, that there was the real right, far autocratic forces that wanted a return of the USSR had really go after these guys. They described them as traitors. Nikolai Kapranov, the physicist friend of mine, said, look, if this had happened 5 years earlier, we would be in prison. If it had happened 10 years earlier, we would have been shot. Right. Luckily, at that point, Putin was not in power, but none of those people that we talked to on that trip in 1993 would ever talk to me again. I went back in 1996, and it was like I had the plague. I spoke to different people, but they were scared. And eventually, the story was spun where the Ministry of Defense officials who gave us this information were described as ufologists who said there was nothing really significant to these files. They didn't really find anything a big deal. And I can tell you, you'll see those files that I shared with you, they did find stuff. There was an incident in October of 1982 over an ICBM base where UFOs popped up, was observed over this base where the missiles are pointed at us, United States. These UFOs perform incredible maneuvers. They split apart, they fuse back together. They'd appear and disappear, and right at the end of this 4-hour period, the launch control codes for the ICBMs lit up. Something entered the correct codes. The missiles were fired up and ready to launch, and they could not shut it down. The Russian officers were panicking. The UFOs they disappeared. The launch control system goes back to normal. Colonel Sokolov and his team came in, took the thing apart, could not figure out what it was. It wasn't a power surge or EMPs or some of the baloney excuses that our country has given for similar events involving our nuclear missiles. They thought it was a message from wherever the UFOs were from. And That's a chilling thing. I mean, we were a couple of seconds away from World War III starting, and the UFOs were responsible for it.
All right.
Chief Wiggins, based on your training and operational experience, could the behavior that you witnessed, a transmedium object vanishing without a sound, be explained by any known technology that we possess or other governments possess?
It cannot. No.
And has any government agency debriefed you or any of your shipmates regarding the EOIR and radar confirmed UAP encounter aboard USS Jackson?
No one has, no, ma'am.
What was that encounter like when you brought that up? If you want to briefly summarize that, when you brought that to their attention and then you were not provided any follow-up, who was told and how did you feel when there was no contact back to you?
As far as the actual incident happening,
yes,
or
sir.
the reporting level?
Yes, Chief.
It was within the event happening. My duties are to report to the tactical action officer on watch while we're standing watch. So tactical action officer was there. I made my report. I've not had any discussion outside of that day. There's been no communication to me or requests from me within inside of the military. But speaking of that actual incident itself, once the report was made to the tactical action officer, that's when I made the decision to ask the individual watchstander that was controlling Sapphire to be able to slew into the location. And that's what you see in the video itself, is when the watchstander is slewing in and kind of showing us what we're looking at. But outside of that, that's as far as the reporting went that I know of.
Thank you, Chief. Just for the sake of time, Mr. Nusatelli, has RO, the Air Force, or the FBI ever followed up with you personally about the Red Square event?
I did have follow-up by Aero, nothing with the Air Force. The Aero office updated me, I think, at least 2 times. They let me know that they were unable to locate any records, that the records had been destroyed by the Air Force. The Air Force is destroying all their police records every 3 years on a schedule. So
you were informed that these documents were destroyed.
Well, I have a Freedom of Information Act from the Air Force that states clearly that they destroy all police records on a 3-year schedule.
Okay. So they were sitting on documentation, destroyed it, refused to question any of the lead investigators, anything leading into this investigation?
Yeah, basically they destroyed all the police records. So you couldn't even call the Air Force and ask them if there was a vehicle accident in that time frame. So that's a big problem. We're losing data in real time. So we'll never be able to go back and track.
I think our federal government has a history of destroying records. Thank you very much, Mr. Nusatelli.
Look, I'm not jumped to the conclusion that I believe that there are, aliens coming from another planet. But I'm open to that. And I think that it's our responsibility, especially when we're seeing that we have a government that is actively blocking information from us. Just last night, I tried to get an amendment onto the National Defense Authorization Act that fit in the germaneness of that bill to have UAP disclosure. And conveniently, it was named non-germane, mostly deemed by staff, not even an elected official. This is the kind of stuff that we repeatedly see. Last year, we were blocked by someone in House administration from being able to receive a full briefing from Aero. So not an elected official, but someone in staff blocked us. And I've had it. Enough is enough. I want to cue up a video that I've been given. And as before it starts, I'm going to describe. This was taken October 30th of 2024. This video is of an MQ-9 drone tracking an orb, or this object, off the coast of Yemen. You'll see that another MQ-9 launched a Hellfire missile. That you cannot see that drone, and so I'm not going to explain it to you. You'll see exactly what it does.
Not really exactly. It's hard to tell, but you will see the Hellfire missile be deflected. Eventually, they're zoomed in very close right here. They always do this with the videos. I never understand why. They don't want full disclosure, really. There, see, bounced it.
This is when it zoomed out, so you can still see it traveling. So, Mr. Knapp, do you have you heard about events like this occurring? And what information might you have?
I have heard about events like this. I have heard about this event. Jeremy Corbell and I talked about it in one of our episodes a while back. We did not have the video, though. There are servers where there's a whole bank of these kind of videos that Congress has not been allowed to see, that the public hasn't been allowed to see. Occasionally, some of that stuff gets out in the wild, and it comes our way. It should be going to you. The public should be seeing this stuff. And why you're not allowed to, I don't know. But that's a Hellfire missile smacking into that UFO and just bounced right off. And it kept going.
It kept going, and it looks like the debris was taken with it.
Yeah, what the hell is that? What
again,
like that?
Again, I'm not going to speculate what it is, but the question is, why are we being blocked from this information consistently? And you had you reported James Lakatsky.
All right, gang, we're going to wrap up right there. If anybody's looking for more of this, we've got Pigs in Space behind us. Pigs in Space. Yeah, so we're back on Monday with House of Commons question period. Same time, same place as it's always been. Should be a real wild week. I don't think Carney's going to stand a chance against Polyev and his army. They're experienced with the question dodging. Mark Carney's not experienced with being asked questions he doesn't want to be answered, or he doesn't want to answer. It'll be ridiculous. If anybody's looking for more on what this video was, just put UFO, UAP, Congress, CBS into Google. This will come up. The video itself is about an hour and 25 minutes. Anyhow, I got to go. So we're heading out. It's great to see everybody. Get ready. Monday we'll be back with a live show, and I can't wait to see what goes down in the House of Commons. I don't think that it's going to be the same after this week coming. Hope so anyways. Going for that non-confidence vote. Thank you all for tuning in. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. And that's it. I'm a little bit out of practice here. I haven't been doing live shows all summer. It's just too hard this summer to do a live, like, couple-hour show every day when there's just nonsense going on. Like watching Carney tell the same bullshit lies every day, twice usually, just was too much. Anyhow, we're wrapping it up. Thank you all so much for watching. Let's get out of here.
Questions orales, oral questions.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
WTF.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
The one we call Canadian. Canadians.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister,
What a dickhead.
will there always be a Canada? There will
Screw off,
always
Mike Myers.
be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have issues in Canada, right? Unless you're completely head in the sand, be aware of this.
Oh, yeah. Thank you all for watching. We're out. We'll catch you Monday. It's great to see everybody. I'm excited about next week.